Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. This is Joe, aka Joe, the Wellness Curator, and this is the Obsidian Mindset Podcast, where we are redefining what wellness means to you. We have another familiar guest. You might have heard him a little bit earlier in the month. We have Coach Serg back. Say what's up, Power Serg, Coach Serg.
Hell yeah, how we doing, y'all? Coach Sergio
Very,
checking in.
there we go. I was like, where's the rest of it? Usually have like a whole intro.
Of course, of course. Now it's very low key today. It's late in the evening, but we're still here to talk about a lot of good things, a lot of good stuff. But yeah, we're gonna talk about a lot of good stuff today.
Yes. All right. So basically, this is kind of a bonus episode, but we we enjoyed you so much last time. We want to bring you on one more time before National Hispanic Heritage Month was over, which is over on October 15th.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
15th. Want to talk a little bit more about that. We had some more questions, so want to see if you were up to the challenge to answering them, and we can have this conversation, see where this leads.
Of course, let's get into it. I'm really looking forward to talking about all the details and everything related to like Latin culture, being in the fitness industry, and of course, Hispanic Heritage Month, which is a huge thing going on right now. We're in the middle of it. Well, actually, well, not really. It's kind of towards the end right now,
Interesting.
but still lots of good things to talk about.
Okay, well let's start there at the high level of what does this month mean to you as a person? Let's not we don't talk about wellness, fitness, just to you as a person, what does this month mean?
I would just say it's a celebration of what the Latino culture has accomplished and what we have represent in terms of not just how we interact with our loved ones, our family, right? How we are just a culture that's born out of love and kindness, and of course, partying of what as well. We love to have fun, but of also looking back and reflecting about what have a lot of big Latino figures have done for the culture in terms of helping literally establish new countries for ourselves after like that transition from European power to us being a lot more independent as far as like as well like looking back at like a lot of holidays that we celebrate and holidays that other countries celebrate within their own borders as well. But overall, it's just a celebration of why we as a people, why we as a culture just carry ourselves a little bit differently and really try to appreciate the simple things in life, make sure everything is shared with love, intention, but also looking back and just celebrating everything that we've accomplished and how we are pretty much just a very fun people to be around and very inspiring as well.
I know that's right. I love that. It's very interesting because I think a lot of kind of based off of that, you were just talking about like the independence. A lot of the Latin American countries or Spanish speaking countries, their Independence Days are actually during the month. I think that's correct. During the National Hispanic Heritage Month.
Hmm.
So I think that that also coincides with just a time to celebrate all that's gone on. And like you said, just celebrating achievement, celebrating independence, celebrating the joy.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
so I guess with that, what does and kind of getting back into wellness, how does that, because you know that you said a lot and I think it's inspiring. It's also, it comes with learning about your culture and yourself. But how has we might have even spoke about it a little bit last time. I want you to expound on it. How has your Latino heritage influenced your approach to fitness and wellness, both personally, so your own wellness journey, but as a coach and how you coach other folks?
Oh, it's the whole reason why. Not the whole reason why, but it's definitely a big factor. I related a lot back towards my parents when they moved in the country. So just to give everybody a little bit of context, my parents both moved to the US when they were in their mid 20s, kind of like as old as I am right now. So they had Bolivia is separated into provinces, right? It's our equivalent of states within the US, of course. If you know your geography, you might or might not know that. But they had already lived within the same city, the same province, more or less, but they didn't know of each other at the time. They might have like ran into each other like maybe like once, but they didn't really get to start knowing each other until they both ran into each other when in the US here. My mom came off a visa and she ran into my dad as well there. And after that, of course, they got together as a couple and started working a lot. Of course, a lot of those hours. My dad worked at a car dealership. My mom worked back at a house in like restaurants, and both of them barely knew any English at all. Most of them just barely could just say "Hey" and like "Where's the bathroom?" So they a lot of it was just being in that survival mode and focusing on paying bills and just making a name for yourself, making a living for yourself, and still sending some of that money that you're making from like your real hands and sending it to some of the family that's still in the
Hmm.
home country, still trying to hold it down. Because at the end of the day, you got to represent for the fam. But with all that
Hmm.
being said, right, you got a lot of stuff on your plate and you're trying to make a living for yourself and you're trying to help a lot of your loved ones at home. Probably the last thing that you're thinking about is your own fitness and your own well-being and your own
Ooh.
health, because overall that ultimately leads to stress and that can lead to other health complications down the road, right? Stress doesn't cause diabetes, high blood pressure, hypertension, or rheumatoid arthritis, right? But it leads down a rabbit hole that can lead to those things. So to me, I think that there's a lot of people that don't have access to as many resources as the average person in the US does, right? So the last thing they're thinking about, especially if they're mostly working on or mostly focused on putting food on the table, is themselves. And I think that physical fitness has done so much for me, not just in terms of my self development, but my mental health as well. That I think it's a benefit that everyone deserves to benefit from. And if anything, it's helped me conquer and approach a lot of these life tasks with a lot more confidence because I know if I can do hard things in the gym or in any kind of environment, I can apply that same mindset anywhere else. So I think that, especially for my people and especially through all the work that they put in behind the scenes, as well as how much I know they're about hustling, right? If you're a Latino, most Latinos are hustlers. I don't know about you, I might be biased, right? We like to work hard, play hard all the time, but of course it's hard to work hard if you're not playing hard per se, right? You got to still make that time for yourself. So I think that is where you need to find a balance. Yes, get after the bag, but get after your health and fitness as well, because that is what keeps you uh, healthy for the long run.
I love that. Yeah. And yeah, and what I'm hearing you saying also, or at least what I'm interpreting, is when it comes to health, it is a little bit of the work hard and the play hard. It can be both. Just got it depends on your perspective and kind of treating it like you could treat it like play. I think that's always one of my big things. Is just like working out doesn't have to be work. Of course, it is sometimes, and of course, you need to do the work. You need to put in the time, put in the effort, put in the intentionality, but it can be play too. Like dancing for 2 hours, not 2 hours, that's exaggeration. But dancing for 30 minutes, you both sweat, right? And you
Oh,
still
no
get to
doubt.
enjoy the music. So it's a both and. It's a both and.
Yeah, I think the part where you pour into yourself in terms of like working out or whatever your routine is that fills your cup definitely should be play. Should definitely feel like play.
Exactly.
I've gotten asked as a trainer before, oh, what's the best form of working out or what's better
Oh,
cardio?
that's a good one.
Like, I don't get that question a whole lot, but I have gotten in the past, and my go-to answer is always whatever is best for you, whatever routine or whatever approach you're more likely to stick to, because that's better than the latter, right? The better than
Hmm.
you not doing anything and not making that decision at all, right? A decision has to be made in that point whether you want to move your body in what way, make time for yourself. So I think that the answer should be yes, but it also should be yes in a way that you're more likely to come back to it, whether it's dancing, biking. Obviously, I'm biased. I want you to lift some heavy shit, but I would love to know that you're just taking care of yourself. That is the ultimate name of the game.
All right. And with that, what is, since we're talking about the cultural impact, what are some, and I think we talked about this offline, but what are some common wellness or fitness practices in the Latino community that you've seen growing up, and how have they shaped your perspective?
I would say that a lot of it has not revolved around lifting weights. I didn't really get
Mm,
into lifting weights until I I might have told this story in the previous episode about my whole upbringing into the US and living in Bolivia, but just as a, little summarized note, I lived in the US. I was born in the US, moved to Bolivia for 5 years of my life, and then re-entered the school system when I was about 13, I believe. But I came in the middle of middle school. So it wasn't until I re-entered the school system that in the US that I got, introduced to lifting weights, which we didn't really have a whole privilege of doing over at in Bolivia. We had a private school and it was a nice school, but we didn't really have a weight room. So it just wasn't known of a whole lot. And if you wanted to work out, a lot of it involved cardio, like going out for a run or doing some kind of ab circuit or doing some kind of like, I guess, quote unquote, cheesy approach towards fitness, right? Like 90s aerobics. I'm not talking about like the long socks, but something that involves that kind of vibe, right? I would say a lot, and you could probably relate this to within the US too, but it's just misinformation. A lot of people just don't really know kind of what they're doing because they don't know any better. And I would say in terms of like fitness and wellness, they preach the message a lot more about nutrition rather than exercise, which is actually interesting because exercise to me is lower hanging fruit and nutrition is definitely more of a puzzle to solve depending on like what your goals may be. But
Mhm.
working out is actually a topic not really discussed a whole lot. There definitely I feel like could be more awareness and more discussions about that in terms of like what you should be doing to uphold your health. But in terms of nutrition, it's always just like eat less or eat more, depending, right? So say for example, and I said this in the last episode too, you're with your grandmother you haven't seen for a while, and she sees you, the first thing she says is like, why are you getting so skinny? And serves you a
Mhm.
big ass plate of food. That's one way of nutrition, how it's somewhat represented in the Latino community. And of course, if you're like focused on weight loss and you express that to your loved ones, well, their first initial reaction is like, why don't you just eat less? But it's not always that black and white.
Right.
So I would say that's a lot of the common practices summarized is like just do a little bit of cardio, maybe walk a little bit more, maybe do some sit-ups, but not really a whole lot of education about weightlifting. And in terms of nutrition, it's very black and white. It's either eat more or eat less or just eat no carbs. But a lot of similar like practices and myths that is held within the US as well.
That's true. All right, so moving on a little bit, like I want to talk a little bit more about you celebrating your identity through your fitness. So, like, how do you celebrate your Hispanic heritage through your fitness coaching or your like training methods? Is there like a something different that you do that or you feel that you do that kind of brings that into the your training or coaching style? Whether
Right.
that's
So
the
you're basically
music, whether
asking,
that's the style, whatever that looks like to you.
so you're basically saying like, how do I feel like Latino AF during my coaching or kind of when I'm in yeah.
Yes, let's go with that.
Hey man, if you're in a
Latino
personal
AF.
training
I like
session with
that.
me, if you're in a personal training session with me, I am playing Latin music for sure. That is number one. Like, don't get me wrong. I will switch it up. I love
Of course, of
throwbacks. I
course.
love 2000s hip hop, R&B, house music. I got a really wide selection of music, but you're definitely gonna hear a lot of reggaeton and Bad Bunny and Daddy Yankee and Wisin y Yandel. But that's music is a big one for me, and I'm pretty much all Latino cultures huge around music, right? Every culture is pretty much, but we take a lot of big pride in our music. Because it's really like, Spanish is a romantic language. We like to
Mhm.
express our emotions and feelings through that. But in terms of like my coaching as well, I like to incorporate a little bit of Spanish there, a little bit of Spanglish. So sometimes I'll like, especially if you're holding a plank on like an exercise, whatever, I'll do Spanish trivia. How do you say this word in Spanish? Or I'll just do a
Oh
little bit of
my
Spanish
gosh.
history. Like I'll just sprinkle it in there, but it's really more for like entertainment purposes. Not like, I'm gonna quiz you on this shit next session. It's more like, oh, I'm just gonna teach you something new just to pass the time because
Okay.
that's cool.
I like that.
Yeah. Also, lastly, I'll even say like on my check-ins that I do with my clients, I check in with them weekly, and some of the questions are repeated in both languages. So if, for
Mm,
example, like I ask you how much water did you have to drink today, there'll be a slash, and then the other half would be the same sentence but in Spanish, kind of like a bilingual thing. Or like I'll just flip the words up a little bit like that, be like, oh, how much water slash agua did you drink today? Just some funny things there. But that's just subtle things I do just to like like if you sign up with me as your trainer, you're gonna like know that I'm pretty Latino. That's for sure.
Latino AF, as you said.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's also getting into like culture immersion and making sure people have like cultural literacy and making sure people feel comfortable. So what do you feel like doing that, especially with your client check-ins? How does that help the relationship or the partnership?
Oh, you mean like incorporating a little bit of Spanish?
Mhm.
I just think it makes it overall just more engaging and interesting. At the end of the day, like you're hiring me for me to help you be a fitness coach and reach your fitness goals, not to be a Spanish tutor. But at the end of the day, I realize that there are thousands and millions of people like me, right? Body transformation coach, personal trainer, group fitness class instructor. You can find these like a dime a dozen. Not to downplay anybody, but like, there's a lot of us out there. But the biggest thing you want to do in this field is really separate yourself from the crowd and make yourself more unique. So that's where I use my culture to help me do that. I think there's a lot of personal trainers, but when I kind of had that self-reflection point where I was really trying to focus on my niche and what I wanted to do specifically as a trainer, I looked at my culture first. I looked at my roots. And that's the biggest thing that helped me out because I looked back and I was like, there isn't really a whole lot of representation, or it's not as much as I thought there would be, at least within the city. Could be bigger than that too, but I think it just overall makes it more engaging, more interesting, more unique, and more, well, I guess unique pretty much sums it up because I mean, how many personal trainers do you know that also teach their clients Spanish at the same time that they're teaching them how to do a bench press?
That sounds like an interesting offer. What, like you can throw away your Duolingo app and just
Yeah.
talk to Power Surge app.
No, literally, I have a client right now, and she has these two daughters, and their nanny is I forgot what country she's from, but she's Latina, and I've met her. But they're both learning Spanish, and if anything, they both know a good amount of Spanish. Like they're learning colors and words and verbs, and it's really cute. And sometimes I quiz them, sometimes just to shoot the breeze. But it's really cool. It really helps bring it just helps you make you feel connected to whoever you're working with. And that was always the goal of mine as a personal trainer is like I want you to feel connected to what I'm helping you do, right?
I
I want
love
us to
that.
feel some kind of connection between each other more than just like what you're just paying me for.
I love that. All right, so switching topics a little bit, but kind of also in the same line. So I'm gonna read some data that I found. So from 2010 through 2022, Hispanics were the fastest growing demographic for fitness facility memberships and spending more each month on memberships, an average of
Yeah.
$70 than any other ethnic demographic. That's according to the 2023 U.S. Health and Fitness Consumer Report. So, based off of that and just hearing that information, what are your thoughts? And then, what do you feel like folks, especially trainers, whether you're Latino or not, could learn from that information?
Oh, first of all, hell yeah, that really hypes me up. And second of all, well, it seems there's a movement that's bringing more awareness towards fitness and wellness towards the Latino community. And honestly, this couldn't have come at a better time because it goes back to what I said at the beginning of the podcast of this episode, right? Everyone's hustling, everyone's working hard, but you gotta have that play hard aspect to it too. So I think that overall it's really beneficial, and I'm glad that people are starting to make this change and prioritize themselves more. And not only that, debunk a lot of myths about how fitness is a one size fits all, but
Mm.
instead it can be literally whatever you want it to be, whether that's cycling, cardio, lifting weights. But I think that a note for like other Latino trainers that could, take away from that statistic you provided me is to just keep representing your roots and keep putting yourself out there. Because at the end of the day, and you can relate this towards other like races and cultures too, but representation is a big component. So if you see somebody that looks like you kind of at a point where you want to be physically and mentally, then that's a good sign and that's a good motivation of just getting after that and getting to that point B and motivation to keep moving forward. So I would just say to like those other Latino trainers, like just keep being you and keep representing your roots because that's the biggest thing you can do. Never be ashamed of like representing that because I feel like this could be a topic for another podcast episode, but we live in a society that tries to make us forget where we come from. We can't do that. You got to where your
Mm.
parents come from, where your ancestors come from. So it's really important to know all that. So just keep on being you, and other people will follow your direction. The right ones will. right ones will. Not everyone will
Yeah,
stay.
I love that. That's a very good caveat. Very good caveat, but it's important.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
so I think with that, one question I'm curious about, because you kind of touched on it, but because you were talking to all Latino trainers, have you ever found, you as a trainer, have you ever felt like you were the only one in, I want to say the gym floor, because I know you don't work in that kind of capacity. But in the industry, did you ever feel like you were the only one in that space and that in the city? I don't know, but did you ever feel like you were the only one in a certain space? And then if that is true, how did that change how you moved in that space? Does the question
Mm,
make sense?
No, I totally get what you're saying.
Okay.
I would say it never really felt like I was the only one, but it definitely felt like there could have been more.
Mm,
I had a coworker in the studio that I work for. She was Latina, and she might have been the only Latina coach that was, working for that studio at the time. But then she pretty much left, and now I'm pretty much the only Latino coach, not the only Latino person. There's like
mm.
members and front desk people too, but it definitely feels like there should be more of us, and there's probably out there, and if not, they're hiding under a rock somewhere where I can't see. So, because where y'all at, I'm trying to be friends with y'all. Um, but no, for real. Um, but I would say that it definitely feels like there could have been more. And I think that um I don't know. I guess there's not really like a solution to that. Well, there is a solution to that, but it's more about just again that representation, like showing about like preaching about who you are, what your message is, and just putting yourself out there. I would say that is the best way to move forward from that. But it definitely feels like there could have been more. And I just think a lot of that has to do with location as well. But I
That's true.
definitely like, hey, I definitely think we need more Latino trainers in the DC area for sure.
I like that. We spoke about this a little bit earlier, but what are some different myths and misconceptions that you know regarding the Latino community, or that you've heard or had to debunk? Any of the above.
I would say mostly around lifting weights, especially towards women, sometimes men, but mostly women.
Fine.
And I feel like other cultures share that as well, talking about like how lifting weights makes you bulky or not even bulky, right? Of course, there's that fear of like turning literally into a male, which is biologically impossible. But not only that, of also just the danger aspect of it, right? Like don't lift
Mm,
that heavy weight, you might break your back, or don't lift that heavy weight, you might hurt yourself, wherever. And it's not, again, another thing that's not so plain black and white, right? It may be a lot of heavy weight that person may be lifting, but if they're doing it in a safe manner in a controlled environment, then it's totally okay. So I think the myth around like lifting weights, whether it makes you like manly or is just straight up dangerous and you're at more of a risk for injury altogether. I remember my mom used to always tell me like, why are you lifting so much heavy weights? And I'm like, I'm going to Gainesville. And I'm just kidding. But yeah,
no,
I
you're
am
not.
trying to get a little bit stronger out here and like gain a little bit more muscle. So um it is what it is. So that's one thing I can think about. I want
And so with that, before you go on to the next one, what would your advice be to someone that came to you with that advice?
I would say hire a
Or with
coach.
that? Okay.
Or do your hire a coach or do your research, and that's another thing like any person or any race or culture can do, but that's the educating yourself is the first step. I
Hmm.
think that believing this all or nothing mentality just because like your loved one said this doesn't mean that may not be the true. You always got to formulate your own opinion with anything, so whether that be your own research, looking at YouTube, Google, whatever, and finding your facts there, or just hiring a coach altogether that can teach you the ways of getting into a weightlifting environment, seeing if it's a right fit for you, teaching you proper form, and showing you that lifting weights doesn't have to be as bad, doesn't have to be dangerous either, right? There's good form, there's bad form, you know, and there are all these different things that determine whether um, that myth can be true or not. It's not.
Hmm. I like that. Are there any others? I know I kind of interrupted you. Any other
Oh no, you're
myths?
good. I wanted to touch on the nutrition one because that last one was about training, but um I would say the myth about eating less, again, also catered
Losing weight.
towards women as well.
Mm,
I will say I feel like a lot of fitness and wellness myths around are like more geared toward or have more of a stigma towards women because well, I'm not really sure why, but it is kind of a sad truth. And I feel like the culture can tend to be more machista and prioritize men a little bit more in certain aspects.
hmm.
That's why they don't really get as much of these myths per se or that much attention. Um, that's I'm going on a tangent there. But
No,
I will say that especially for women who want to lose weight, the go-to answer that every parent is gonna give them is just eat less, straight up. Just don't eat as much, eat less, don't eat a whole lot of protein. That just makes you bloat. It just makes you fat. Another thing you need to educate yourself on, right? It's yes, it's when it comes to weight loss, and I don't care what anybody has to say, it is calories in versus calories out, whether it's your body recomp, muscle mass that you're trying to gain, weight loss, right? However, that's not the whole puzzle. It's a piece
hmm.
of the puzzle, right? How you fill said calories is what determines whether you um either spiral up or spiral downwards. So importantly, yes, you want to eat less, but it's also important to think about that protein intake so you don't lose muscle mass. It's also about eating a certain amount of carbs or eating a carbohydrate, some form of carbohydrate before after your workout so you don't feel lethargic and feel like shit during your workout. Or if you feel like you're I don't know, you're going through some tests and you feel like your hormones are off or something feels off. All right, what does that fat intake look like? All right, are we getting omega-3 fatty acids that's going to help you boost your heart health, your skin health, your hormones, everything else, your brain function, right? It's not so black and blue and just about eating less, right? So I think like I said, it's a piece of the puzzle, but it's not the whole puzzle per se. It goes deeper than that. That's why it's important to educate yourself and finding somebody that can help you learn more about these tips.
I love that.
Mhm.
All right, I think next I have two more specifically about Hispanic Heritage Month, and then we can talk about some general things. I have some general questions. The first being, do you have any inspirations in the Latino community for wellness and fitness? Do you have like a bodybuilder inspiration or athlete? I know you played soccer and wrestling, so
This is a good
curious.
one. I appreciate this. I would say the biggest influences for me in the Latino community, one of them was actually my own coach. So
Ooh.
I mentioned that I hired my own coach for a while.
Mhm.
Um, especially when I graduated high school, going into college, I had an online coach. He wrote all my programming for me, did my nutrition. His name's Mikey. He's Puerto Rican. I don't know if you're ever going to listen to this episode, Mikey, but this is for you. Shout out to you. He went by Mikey Diesel, badass name. But I realized that one, he's Latino, looks somewhat like me, or at least has the same roots as me. And when I was looking for a coach, my sister knew these two trainers, right? They both worked together. One of them was Latino. That was my ticket into the fitness field. I was like, all right, he's got the same roots as me, and he looks super hot. So I'm trying to be like that. So that was one. That's pretty much the spark that lit everything down the road for me. And I was like, if he can like make a living off of this shit and like have it really fill his cup, then there's a chance I can probably do the same thing, but on a bigger
Mhm.
level. That is the spark that helped me get to where I am right now. So my personal coach would um I say I don't really know what he's up to these days, but that is one source of inspiration that's helped me carry forward and really choose fitness as my career for life. Another great Latino influence I probably would say is she's a Latina influencer. She's Dominican. Her name is Masi Arias. I don't know if you've
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. She be going hard. Even when she was
bro.
pregnant, she was going hard.
Oh, I didn't know of her until this year. I feel
Oh
like,
really? Oh, she's been
yes, I
around. Yeah,
just
she's been
started
around.
following her. I'm like, she's like
She is
strong as hell and
bad.
like
Yeah.
super ripped and like knows what she's talking about and
Mhm.
very intentional about what she speaks about. And her content's on point. Like overall, like 10, 10, 10. Like marketing on point 10. Like she's overall really dope person. And I've always Loved her storytelling and loved how real she and connected she feels with a lot of her followers and supporters. And she's a coach as well, has her own online fitness brand. But another figure I look up to a lot that says, like, if this person can, one, do this career, and not only that, but bring people together, make them feel like they're part of a community, then I can do this too. She always calls her squad tribe. She doesn't say squad or team. What up, team? She says, what up, tribe? And I always love that. I'm like, tribe. It feels like we're like family, but in like
Hmm.
not in a blood, like not like in a blood way, more like just yeah, we are people and we are
Like
connected.
ancestral.
Yes, it's very deep. I love Mossy.
Mhm.
She's great. And I believe, yeah, I don't really have a whole lot of other like inspirations for fitness, but I will always say I'm a mama's boy. My biggest inspiration is my mama.
I know that's right.
Yeah.
You better tell mama. I know she's listening too.
Oh, I hope she is. I love you, mom. You're my rock.
Oh man, I love it. Okay, the last specific around the this month. So I guess on an inspirational note or end note, what are your hopes for the future of wellness for the Latino community, and what would success look like to you in that regard?
I would hope my hopes for the Latino community and fitness and wellness and what success would look like to me is people just all get it, all being on the same page about their fitness and health, all being on the same page about taking care of themselves. I want to see like mothers and their sons go hit the gym together. I want to see like them even taking a fitness class together. Or I don't know, like sometimes like my mom is also my client, by the way. And we'll go out and we'll try to like stay prioritize our nutrition. Sure, order like a Cobb salad with some salmon all it on it. I'll get like a little chicken rice bowl, stuff like that. But like you can kind of see from afar that they're on the same page in terms of like what their priorities are. So I just want to see, I don't want to see like any more of this gap between like old mindset and new mindset, old lifestyle, old beliefs and new beliefs, right? Because that at the end of the day divides us. I feel like there's so many like subcultural beliefs within our people that's really just driving us apart and making us talk shit about each other. And I hate that because that's what the ops want. The ops want it, don't they don't want us to get together and be on the same page, right? So I want that for my people. I want everyone to like hang out more socially, go hit the gym together, go talk about fitness together, do panels about how they talk about and prioritize themselves more, and just meal prep together. Just do stuff like that where they're all on the same page and they're like, we are a tribe and we do this because this is the way. That's what I want to see.
I love that. We're gonna work on and you, but I think to the credit, I feel like you're doing that every day, and in your
Hey,
own business and growth. So, I always appreciate, and that's the kind of people I want on here, people that are putting actions to the words and the dreams that they believe in. They're not just expecting or waiting for someone else to do it. So,
hell yeah.
thank you.
Of
That's how
course.
we do out here.
That's what we do. That's what we do. Hey, man, I really appreciate you. Like, that's all I wanted to do. I realize as a person that I'm in a position right now that is privileged to a degree, right?
Hmm.
I was born in the country. I have citizenship in both this country and Bolivia as well. And I have access to a lot of things that some people within my family may not have access to. So I'm in a position of where I can literally open the doors for other people to do better. And I feel like if I don't do that, I'm doing a disservice to my people and my ancestors and everything. I just feel like I just want to be there to like open doors for more people and just show us the way.
Yeah, that's similar to me. It's just like I know one term that I've been talking about for a while is like generational health. Because I know we always talk about generational wealth. And for me, it's just like you said, we all have this privilege that I acknowledge. And the fact that I have the time and capacity to think of not only about my health, but the health of my family and my generations to come and my ancestors and like how do I want to pass down this knowledge. It's not enough to just live the lifestyle for myself, but how am I going to pass this down to the next and the next and the next so that they can also live a full and healthy life, or at least have the tools? Because, things happen, but at least they know what to do if those things happen and how they can, live that life that they want to.
I love that. This is true. Well, you start a podcast. That's step number one.
Hello, and that's done. No, I did my job. Next generation, you got Europe. No, I was kidding. So with that, I think my next question, where now I'm this, you don't even know we're about to talk about this.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. I
so
love
this
this.
is now we're about to get into another episode or another part of the episode. Last week I talked my last episode was about watching my friend do the half Ironman and just being out there to support. So I don't know if everyone on here knows that's listening, but you ran your half, was it your first half marathon this year? Was that in
I
March?
did. Yeah, DC Rock and Roll half. That was
Yes.
mm,
So tell me about what is your experience and would you do another one?
um
That
full answer. Yeah, I know, right? Ah man, I got so my feelings about my time on actual race day because I wanted to finish it a little bit shorter and I know I could. But yeah, I'm gonna do it again for sure. I'm gonna do
that's
it.
let me just tell anyone that's listening, that is always how these races get you because you always have a time and you either like, I had did it or wish I had gotten it, or I think I could do better. Let me try to do it again. I knew that was
No,
gonna happen to you.
that's how they reel you in. For those
That's
of
yep.
you listening right now, I wish you could have the visual aspect of this because it feels like I have a giant clown red nose on my face right now. Like I was telling people, I'm not doing this ever again, and now I'm like, shit, I want to do this again.
Especially the competitive folks. Like I most of the people I know are competitive. And they were like, I'm just gonna do one race. I'm like, you're not. As someone that said that before, usually, sometimes you're like, okay, I'm done. But usually for the folks to me that say I'm done with that level, they'll like drop down. So they'll say I'm never doing a marathon, but they might do like 5Ks or they might do a half. Um, but yeah, I found that fun. So what was one lesson that you learned from either your training or the actual race?
Oh, I got you. Well, first of all, I want to answer your question about how was the
Oh
experience.
yeah.
Yeah, the experience was different, I will say, because
Hmm.
I've actually ran longer than that before. I ran 15 miles, but I was kind of just thrown out there. It was from a wrestling camp. It was really intense, and it was just kind of like the last day of the camp was like this grand finale of just running, like hitting the road and running 15 miles. So
Hmm.
there's no training at all for that. But I would say like the actual intentionality and the structure of actually being in a program, and I was barely in a program, right? I was just adding an extra mile every week, every other week. But having more intentionality, getting behind a race is a lot different. I will say that the biggest thing was one, my strength went down, the better my endurance got. I wasn't used to that. I'm like benching and I'm like, damn, why does this shit feel a lot heavier? So that was one thing I experienced. Another thing was a newfound enjoyment of running. I kind of did enjoy running. I feel like I love the concept of it and the way it makes me feel. It's just a little challenging to fit into my routine, but I am looking forward to you adding another boat class so I can actually be a part of it.
Yes.
But I love I have a newfound love for it. It's actually very therapeutic. Long distance running is mental though. I get bored after like mile 8 or 9. I'm like, damn, my legs and arms are still moving and I'm getting bored and I need a better song to play in my headphones.
That'll do it. That'll do it.
Yeah.
Which is also wild because I too listen to music, but I know a lot of people don't. I actually know there's some running clubs that you're not supposed to listen to music, both for safety reasons as well as, they're supposed to build more community. My friend who did the half marathon, half Ironman, his race, you're not half Ironman and Ironman, you're not supposed to listen to music. And I'm like, that's like, I'm like, I have so much respect because doing that whole thing with no music, I would be bored.
Damn, no
I
wonder they call it the Iron Man.
They don't
Damn.
play. They're superheroes.
Yeah,
That's why.
that marketing don't play. Yo.
um, but yeah, so okay, so the experience was good. Learned a lot. What is something that you said
One thing,
you
yeah.
learned? Yeah, what did you learn from that experience? And maybe something that you can even, because I know for me, the half marathon or running in general, I was surprised at how many lessons that I could take from running that I could apply to my real life. So I'm curious if there was anything that you learned about yourself during this training or during the race that you were able to apply to your real life.
I would just say that, oh, this one's a little bit more generic, but I really feel it in my bones when I say it is that you're capable of a lot more than what you think you are. I really
Mm,
thought I was going to be a lot slower, a lot more winded. And overall, like I sprinted the finish of that half, and I think the fact that I was even able to pick up into a dead sprint and somewhat recover a little bit quicker after that was great because
mm.
I didn't like flop to the floor after that sprint. I was still able to like power walk it out and just like cool down easily. But I was really surprised on how I did on that race. I was like, wow, I really ran what is it, like 13 and a half miles, like yeah, 13 miles.
13.1. Yeah.
That was pretty badass to look back at and um, know that I've done that before in the past. And not only did I did it faster than what I originally did, mind you, I ran like what 2 extra miles, but not only did I did it faster, but I felt better about it, and I felt like I still got it. I feel like back then, of course, I'm in high school. I was like what 16 or 17 at the time, right? I'm younger. I feel like, hey man, like if I can still do it here this much time since this much time has passed since that day when I ran 15 miles, then hey, I still got it. Don't ever count yourself out, y'all. If there's one thing you gotta take away from this podcast, it's never too late. You can do it. It's never too late.
Gem drop. I was actually going to ask you what's the last thing you want, or what's the gem you want to leave for the audience? But I feel like that was it. Unless you have something else, it's never too late,
Nah,
baby.
it's never too late. And man, this is like me going on a tangent. I relate a lot of my emotions to what's going through my head with music. Um,
Let's hear it. You about to
and
sing?
what's up? I'm about to sing. Nah, nah, I'm not about to sing. But there was this one song I was listening to, and he talked a lot about how his like family and his uncle, for example, like would live pretty much is towards like the end of his life in his 50s and 60s, and is just giving up on his bucket list because, oh well, that's life, I guess. Time just kind of slipped by, and now like I'm in a different era of my life than when I first started said bucket list. There's no way I'm gonna complete that. That I'm so anti that you have no idea. Like, no, you still have time. You
Oh
still
yeah.
have effort. Like, you are alive as is. You need to trust that shit and go do it. And don't be afraid of other people watch. Because if anything, you might just inspire the the right person.
That yes. I'm here snapping my fingers. That's an amazing way to end. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you,
sir.
Serge. I appreciate you.
Of
Every
course.
time you this too far, you've been here twice, and each time you've left with a gem drop, mic drop.
Hell yeah.
All right. So with that, I think that is all I have for today. I'm excited about the next topic. I think we actually teased out a few of the next topics, but I'll let the folks guess at home what it's going to be we're talking about next. Is there anything that you're up to, or you want to let the folks know how to reach out to you again?
Yeah, of course. So if you're trying to reach out to me, of course, I am a body transformation coach, Latino owned, and your boy is Bolivian. But if you're trying to find me on the gram, you can find me at powers underscore surge 6 on Instagram. Okay. If you also want to reach out to me via email, you can email me at Sergio at powersurgefitness.com, and then you can just reach out to me via there. But that's pretty much all I have in terms of like what I want to say at the end. Mi gente, thank you guys so much for staying tuned for another beautiful episode. I love my people. And hey, if you are Latino and you're listening to this right now for your Hispanic Heritage Month, text a family member right now, tell them you love them.
I got nothing to add on that. You heard what the man said. With that, thank you all for picking you today. Bye, y'all.